welcome to Inside the Americas here on France 24. Coming up in this week's show. Hawkish US National Security Advisor John Bolton is fired by President Donald Trump, who says he strongly disagreed with many of Bolton's opinions. 18 years on from 9/11, we take a look at the long-term health implications suffered by survivors exposed to the toxic debris of New York's Ground Zero. And no fewer than 50 US attorneys general embark on antitrust investigations into Google, the tech giant that boasts over 90% of the global search engine market share. John Bolton, National Security Advisor to US President Donald Trump, has become the latest member of the administration to be shown the door. The news announced in a tweet by Trump, the president saying he strongly disagreed with many of Bolton's foreign policy suggestions. His successor, who'll be the White House's fourth national security chief in less than 3 years, is expected to be named next week. Ellen Gainsford has the story.
A well-known hawk, John Bolton's hardline foreign policy views clashed with the administration's many times. Bolton championed aggressive foreign intervention and wanted a strong international US military presence, in contrast to President Trump's dovish promises to end Middle Eastern wars.
He was a hawk on a lot of those issues and wanted the president to adopt a much tougher stance. And was it the Iran conversations over the last couple of days or the Taliban talks falling apart over the weekend? It's not precisely clear which one of them was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back there.
Most recently, he opposed the idea of holding peace talks with the Taliban at Camp David, a plan backed by President Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, with the goal of removing American troops from Afghanistan after almost 18 years of war. Bolton reportedly sabotaged the talks.
Last weekend, things accelerated when Trump accused Bolton of leaking to the press the possibility of meeting with the Taliban in Camp David to sign a peace treaty with them. Within the administration, in Washington, in the media, people were really upset about the very idea of seeing Taliban leaders in Camp David. The thing got a life of its own, if you will, which led Trump to have no choice but to cancel it at the very last minute.
On Iran, Bolton's goal went beyond the administration's. Rather than negotiating a better deal, he called for regime change and opposed a possible US-Iran summit.
We will continue to increase the pressure on the Iranian regime until it abandons its nuclear weapons program and ends its violent activities across the Middle East, including conducting and supporting terrorism around the world.
Bolton was cautious about President Trump's overture to North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. Before entering the administration, Bolton had argued for preemptive attacks on the pariah state. Bolton's critics may be relieved to see the hawk leave the White House. But while Donald Trump is in office, US foreign policy is likely to remain erratic.
The US is marking 18 years since the terrorist attacks of the 11th of September 2001. The military and political consequences of that day are well documented, but for those directly exposed to the dust and debris released when the World Trade Center Twin Towers collapsed, the long-term medical ramifications are also impossible to ignore, with rates of cancer and other serious illnesses on the rise. Brian Quinn, Ellen Gainsford and our colleagues from France Télévisions have this report.
Their names will likely never appear on the 9/11 memorial, but they're victims all the same. Jacqueline worked 2 streets away from the World Trade Center when the towers collapsed. Today, she's being treated for cancer.
I was down here and I had so much exposure to it. My cancer was most likely related to 9/11. And then also developed in my lungs. Never smoked, never did anything. But it spread so rapidly also.
A 2011 study showed a large number of first responders and downtown residents had developed cancer linked to the inhalation of dust and toxic gas following the collapse of the buildings. A federal treatment program for survivors now has 21,000 non-first responders enrolled. Among them, 4,000 have cancer. But who should be held responsible? That's the question this victim asks himself every day.
My wife asked me, did terrorists cause your cancer? I can't say with 100%, but I do know that there could have been better efforts to limit the exposure of healthy adults.
Even lawyers are struggling to work out how to assign blame and to whom.
Nobody could predict exactly what would happen, where you take billions of tons of building material that cooked together for 99 days and emitted into the air downtown.
The U.S. government recently extended the deadline for victims to file compensation claims until 2090. With each passing year, the number of cancers linked to 9/11 continues to rise.
Our number of the week here on Inside the Americas is 92. US tech giant Google has more than a 92% share of all internet searches worldwide. It's that towering figure that's pushed attorneys general from almost all US states to launch investigations into whether Google is fully respecting competition law. Shirley Sitbon takes a look.
After the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice, regulators in Europe, this time 50 attorneys general united to probe Google's business practices.
When 50 attorney generals come together, 50 attorney generals send a strong message to Google. I am going to tell you it's a big deal.
The questions aren't new. Has Alphabet, Google's parent company, stifled competition in online advertising? Is Google violating users' privacy? Is it giving users the most relevant search results or data that can generate more money?
As a new mom, when my daughter is sick and I search online for advice or doctors, I want the best advice from the best doctors, not the doctor and not the clinic who can spend the most on advertising.
Google has said it will cooperate with the latest investigation.
We have answered many questions on these issues over many years in the United States as well as overseas, across many aspects of our business, so this is not new for us.
Google's senior vice president of global affairs added that the company is one of the top investors in innovative technology that benefits everyone. Google controls 37% of the online advertising market, Facebook 22%. Facebook's own business practices are currently investigated by 8 attorneys general.
And this is our extremely heartwarming image of the week. What you're seeing here is 3-year-old Mackay Simmons being welcomed back to his preschool in Florida 1 week after lessons began. Mackay and his mum were in the Bahamas when Hurricane Dorian made landfall, killing dozens of people and leaving thousands homeless. When the pair did finally manage to make it back to the US, it was clear that young Mackay had been rather missed by his classmates. For most people looking to buy a new house, an abundance of natural light comes pretty high on their list of demands. But it's not for everyone. For a small group of dedicated American survivalists, underground bunker homes are gaining in popularity. Emerald Maxwell takes a look.
16 million euros. The eyebrow-raising price tag for this house in Las Vegas. At first sight, the amount seems inflated, but the home's unassuming exterior hides a deep secret.
We're actually going 26 feet down.
The house's current owner shows us around.
This is about 15,000 square feet or 1,200 square meters.
Built in the 1970s, the house's style might feel dated, but it comes complete with all the mod cons, including a view of the great outdoors, or the painted version at least, a light on a timer to mimic day and night, a fountain, even a swimming pool. Built by American billionaire Jerry Anderson as a bunker in case of a nuclear attack. The Cold War may be over, but this estate agent says the house still retains an appeal for some.
Like a DJ, say because you want to make noise, or if you wanted to have parties and invite people. It's private. No one can climb over the wall with a camera. You're underground. You're protected from everything.
The house, though, isn't unique in the United States. Demand is growing for luxury bunkers, though it's not coming from DJs, but wealthy survivalists. This is a former ballistic missile silo of the American Army. The soldiers have gone, but it's still heavily guarded with private protection. This bunker has now been converted. 70 meters below ground, it's complete with cinema, climbing wall, shooting range, a medical clinic, and a vast larder. 80 people can live here self-sufficiently after doomsday, if they can afford it. The 15 apartments have all been sold for €3 million each and personalised, like this high-definition window customised to its New York owner's taste.
With a view over Central Park, and she wants the 4 seasons represented, so spring, summer, winter, fall. And she also wants the sound recorded so she can hear the sounds of the city, the taxis honking and traffic moving.
The developer says his elite clients no longer fear nuclear war, but a long list of other threats.
We now have an increased threat from terrorism, so people are worried that there's a dirty bomb. There's people that are afraid of a global economic collapse. There's people that are worried about biologic threats like pandemics from the bird flu.
The bunker's residents have enough supplies to last for a few years down here. But if the world outside is really as apocalyptic as they fear, they're only really putting off the inevitable.
And finally, the world of photography has lost one of its greats. Swiss-born Robert Frank has died at the age of 94. Frank was best known for his The Americans series, which chronicled the comings and goings of New York life in the 1950s, warts and all. He also gained notoriety as a prominent photographer of the Beat generation. His work was also featured on the cover of the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street LP. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Inside the Americas. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll leave you with some of those iconic images from the late Robert Frank.
Keep up to date on the latest from the Middle East. We bring you political, economic, and cultural events from the region in this weekly Middle Eastern program.
Middle East Matters, presented by Sanam Chantier on France 24 and France24.com.